Whoa, tonight's going to be a wonderful night because we got Christian Appel and he's the cemetery hunter. He goes to cemeteries all over the place and he looks for notable graves also. Um, I have to say that I've seen some notable graves. I've been to some very prestigious cemeteries. Um, I've seen Napoleon Bonaparte's tomb over in Paris, and I went into those Paris catacombs. Billy the Kid's grave over in New Mexico, Elizabeth Short, Black Dahlia, and Zandine was with me, and that was over in Oakland.
Mhm.
Um, and Black Dahlia, was a victim. She was cut in half and all this other stuff. I went to Tombstone, Arizona, saw the cemetery over there, Bodie, California cemetery, Wyatt Earp, Colma, Virgil Earp, Sacramento Oaks Cemetery. A lot of people don't even probably know about that, except for Phil because he always studied Sacramento history. Um, Alexander Hamilton Willard. He was of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and he's buried at the Franklin, California Cemetery. Lenin's tomb at Red Square, Vladimir Lenin, Charles Earl Black Bart Wells, or Charles E. Bowles. Black Bart is probably buried at the Marysville Pioneer Cemetery in an unmarked grave. And I've been there, and it's a very haunted place. So, and Stacy is going to talk about some cemeteries in Missouri that Christian might really like. So, anyway, Christian, you've been going to these cemeteries, and what's been happening with you? What's the newest cemetery you've been to?
Well, a couple weeks ago, I went up to what is it, I guess Yuba County, and went to the Chico Cemetery. I have some family there, and probably the most notable person buried there is General John Bidwell. You can't really go anywhere in Chico without hearing the name Bidwell. There's Bidwell Mansion, which unfortunately caught on fire. I think late last year, early this year. So I don't know if it's salvageable or not. It was considered arson. Um, but it's interesting because he's buried right across from the Grand Army of the Republic. And he's the only, as far as I can remember, I think he's the only uh, honorable, well, the only person that was ever granted acceptance by the Grand Army Republic who was um, not a member of the Union Army. So he was a staunch Democrat, and he was the only one of his party that was outspoken against the Democrats' support for the Confederacy and slavery. And for that, he became an honorable member of the Grand Army of the Republic. And so I think it's quite interesting that his grave is basically right across from the Civil War section of the cemetery. And I don't know if you've ever been to that cemetery. It's nice. I'm pretty sure it's probably haunted because it dates back to the probably the 1870s, 1880s. Um, a lot of interesting historical figures there. Just haven't had a whole lot of time to explore it all that much, but I was there, like I said, to visit family and check out obviously the Civil War section because I always like looking at the Civil War stuff. I have a lot of respect for veterans, especially of that era, and for what they did. And then on the way home, I stopped off in Gridley to check out their cemetery, but I didn't have enough time to have boots on the ground to explore just because it was getting dark. And I honestly don't like to be in cemeteries when it's getting dark, not because of the spooky factor, but just not knowing, the landscape, like if you could trip or something and, rodents and stuff like that, you don't want to get bit by something. And I don't like mosquitoes. And so besides the mosquitoes, the road, whatever else is out there. So those are the two cemeteries I've been to recently. In late spring, I did a little bit of exploring at St. Joseph's Cemetery there on 21st and Broadway, which is basically owned by the Sacramento Catholic Diocese. And have you ever been to that one, Paul?
Uh, which one is it? What's the name of it again?
It's called St. Joseph's Catholic Cemetery, or just St. Joseph's
Oh
Cemetery.
yeah. I've been there. I've been there. Yes.
So that's an interesting cemetery. Um, when I used to the first time I went there, it was very, oh man, the atmosphere there was just super heavy. Um, Always felt like it was being watched. You could just feel like this oppression. It was heavily vandalized. It almost felt like, like it was neglected by the archdiocese. I don't know. That's just my speculation, but like all the stained glass windows were like had rocks thrown through them, and there was a crypt that was um, the door was ripped off. I don't even know what happened to the graves that were inside. Before the pandemic, I went in there and there was pentagrams drawn on the floor, and I found used condoms. I'm just like, man, someone's having a field day out here. And just basically this spring, I went out there several times because I was trying to find a professional baseball player that's buried out there. Um, he might have been the very first um, Sacramentan or person lived in Sacramento who might have broken into the early start of professional baseball. And that would have been in the 1880s, 1890s. He played for the Baltimore Orioles. And so, been trying to find his grave. It was unmarked. I kind of sort of have it pinpointed, but yeah, just going out there and just venturing out there, and it doesn't have that same level of oppression. I don't feel like I'm being watched, but the cemetery is still very kind of creepy in some ways. And yeah, I encourage anyone who's from Northern California or even in the Sacramento area to go out there and check it out. I mean, you go out there and you occasionally might see a person out there in their car eating their lunch or reading a newspaper. It's just a place where people go to hang out and kind of get away. It's very secluded. Yeah, it's sort of, and it's peaceful, but um, it could also be a place where there could be a lot of activity going on.
Hey Christian, I would I wish you would investigate the cemetery in Oakland that Zen Dean and myself went to, because they got the Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, her
Mhm.
grave sites there, the Guyana victims of the People's Temple, they're buried there, and the Oakland Hells Angels. And the Oakland Hells Angels went all out on their tombstones with their mug shots, all their history, little bio on their tombstone, everything else. So that's an incredible place to look at.
I have been to that cemetery. It was probably a couple years ago. I was out there well, went out there with some friends to go check out the Pacific Coast Pinball Museum, and had about an hour or two explore what is that, Mountain View Cemetery. And unfortunately, I got locked in. I was there a little bit longer than I was supposed to. Thankfully, they let me out. But I was there looking for, I can't remember. I did a video about it. There was some like historical figure. I can't remember what exactly he did and what his name was, but I know that one of the big four is buried there. It's not Stanford. It's I can't remember his name, but um, yeah, I have many different interests. A lot of Northern California history that I like, and transcontinental railroad history is quite interesting to me. So the opportunity to see one of the big four. I mean, I've already seen the guy that's buried there in the Old City Cemetery in Sacramento, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Been there a billion times probably. Um, but yeah, I don't really go out to the Bay Area that much, except to Colma. Um, but I would like to make it out there and definitely see Elizabeth Short's grave. That would be pretty cool.
Did you see Wyatt Earp's gravesite in Colma?
But yes, I did. Yeah, I did that a few years ago. I thought it was interesting that he was buried in a Jewish cemetery, but that's because his wife was Jewish. She already had the plot, and so that's why she was buried there. Or, well, that's why he was buried in that plot. And and then on the other side of the cemetery, it's the two Jewish cemeteries, Home of Peace and I forgot what the other one was called. But on the other side of the cemetery, that's where Levi Strauss is buried, and so
Oh,
that was pretty cool to see as well.
Christian, Stacy Myers, she lives in Missouri, and
Okay, cool.
she's been to some cemeteries over there. She likes to go ahead and tell you about it.
Well, I'm a cemetery girl. I have been ever since I was a teenager. We had a cemetery that was right down the road from us. I could walk down a little trellis, and there was a natural spring that was in the back of it. It was called the Orinoco Cemetery. I never had any experiences there. They had this one gravestone. His name was Clifton, that I had always go and talk to, and it was kind of made like a bed with the little hump on it. And I accidentally fell asleep one night, and I didn't get home before the street lights went off. So I was running home real quick trying to get home. But I think, end up bringing one of the guys home that was at the cemetery. My girlfriends and I at the time were doing like a Ouija board thing, and this guy got really violent and mean and almost burnt down our house by burning a candle down that was this thick to begin with. And then it was down to the window seal by the time we got done talking to him. We found out what his name was, and we went to the Orinoco graveyard and found out that we found out on the Ouija board that his name was Vincent something. I can't remember his last name now. But he ended up being the second or third tombstone on the left of the graveyard. I was like, oh, so great. This guy was a asshole, to put it bluntly. I mean, so mean. He was really hateful. So I was like, well, we're not playing with that for a period of time anymore. And I still kept going down there, though. It was my safe space. It was my quiet, my beautiful place. I knew every gravestone around there. So, of course, when I got older and I got a car, I was able to start hitting different ones that were from around the area. So we have, guys ever heard, all of us were talking about serial killers at one point on the podcast, and I completely forgot about this guy until Paul had mentioned that we were going to be talking to the cemetery hunter over here, Mr. Christian. And I was like, oh my gosh. All right. So in Peace Church, Carl Junction, there was a serial killer named Billy Cook. And I want to say it was back in the 50s is when this happened. And what this Billy Cook guy would do was he would travel up and down as a hitchhiker, and he ended up killing like families, which was just horrendous. Kids, parents, whoever picked him up. It was just so horrible and heartbreaking. Well, he ended up in California, and he got the death penalty in California. However, he lived in Joplin, Missouri, and all the grave plots of his family were in Peace Church, Carl Junction, Missouri. So his family said, okay, he can be around our grave plots, but he cannot be with us in the cemetery. So grave plots here, he is on the outskirts of what used to be a fence. So he is on the other side of the fence, not in the graveyard. And we'd go down there and just, I never did any major investigations or anything because that was before I ever got into any kinds of investigations. I always just, Paul said, says, as he calls me, I was the empath of the group for the longest time. So I just kind of got feelings and walked around, talked to people, but there was a lot that were in Peace Church. The cool thing is that you have the road, and then there was this big hill that went down to Peace Church, and it was just a small old graveyard, and hardly anybody ever took care of it. You had 1,800 graves there. There was a little old lady that was right beside there, and every Halloween she would always do a bonfire between her house and Peace Church graveyard so that the evil spirits would not come get her on Halloween. It was really good. Just this little old lady out there with her bonfire. It was so cute. But so that was a good one. Let's see. Little Pet Cemetery. We called it the Pet Cemetery. It wasn't really a pet cemetery. The only way that we found it is we always drove past. It was just a little ways up from Peace Church. We always saw these two pillars, the concrete pillars on either side of this dirt road that looked like it went nowhere. So of course, I'm gonna explore and check it out. So we go down there and we find this little bitty graveyard, but it was in such a place that reminded me of the Pet Cemetery, Stephen King's Pet Cemetery. And I was like, well, we'll just call it that so we know, give it some kind of name. There were people there, but the headstones were so small, all the ones that weren't just crumbled to pieces. You couldn't read anything on them, which is kind of disheartening. I always want to know, you know, uh, how long have they been out here and how long have they been forgotten? It just kind of breaks my heart that these little places like that, especially, I'm guessing that was probably a family plot to a house that used to be there. So it was on their property. That's the only thing I could think of. Oh gosh. Galena, Kansas. We have a witch buried in Galena, Kansas. And she is pretty hateful to anybody that comes. They won't let you on at night anymore. But people who've been going there doing investigations on it's the third graveyard if you're coming from Joplin to go to Galena. They tell you exactly where it's at and where her plot is at. So a lot of people have gotten really bad 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 juju. Let's put it this way. Things have not gone well for them after they've gotten done investigating in and around that area, or people will get lightheaded, dizzy, pass out, uh, things like that around her. We have got oh gosh, it sounds like Skull, but it's in Kansas. I can't remember the name of it, but it's supposed to be the gates to hell. It was said there was a rumor going around that not even the Pope would fly over it. Does anybody? Oh gosh, darn it. I can't even remember the name of it. I'm sorry. It totally slipped my mind.
Happens.
And then and then one of the fun ones that Paul and I did together a few years back. Remember when we were with Chantel and we went to the graveyard, Paul, during the day. And it was real dry, so it was hot and it was dry out there. And Paul's like, just watch out for snakes, watch out for snakes, because we had the rattlers and stuff, of course. So we were walking around, and Chantal and I had found where somebody hit on a concrete slab. There was a concrete slab, and then there was it's a it's one of the larger. I wouldn't call it like the monument ones that look like kind of like, gosh darn it, I can't even think tonight. Anyways, it was kind of a little small building, concrete.
Oh, okay.
Mausoleum. A mausoleum.
Yeah, there we go. It's kind of like a mausoleum, but it was just a box of concrete that was right there. Thank you very much. Well, her and I found that, and there was already a pentagram. We don't know if it was a pentagram or a pentacle because you can't tell the difference. A lot of people don't know the difference between a pentagram and a pentacle. But so Chantal and I decided that we were going to stand in the middle of it and start doing, whatever we do to try and summon some things around, even in broad daylight. And we were sitting there, and she felt somebody grab her skirt. And as soon as that happened, I was sitting down, and she turns around, she looks at me, and she's like, "Did you do that?" I was like, "I didn't touch you. I literally just sat down, and that was it." And then oh Lord, we were worried about the snakes. But then all of a sudden, when we started really getting into trying to get, hey, come here and talk to us. Hey, come here, give us something, do us something. A buttload of black widows started coming out of that mausoleum type thing, and we got up and we ran out of there so fast. We're like, oh my gosh, they were coming straight towards us too, so we were not very happy about that. But those are a lot of our fun little places that we have in and around here. We've got so many Civil War places in Neosho and Carthage, Missouri, and we've got just sites, war sites, and different places just in and around here. So if you're ever in Missouri, come my way and hit all the different kind of war sites, and they've got stuff that's open, wherever for during the summertime mostly. But there are a few Civil War cemeteries that are around this area. I haven't really visited much of those because I got enough of doing stuff like that with my grandpa when he was alive. He was a big Civil War train guy. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, Phil and Zandine, you guys are pretty quiet. I'd like to know if there's any cemeteries you like to visit, or if there's any graves you've ever seen that you were like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Hit it, Phil.
I was going to say after you, sir.
Wow, good concept. Well, I mean, in the Bay Area, Christian, like actually, I stay up there. Well, that's where I grew up. But when I'm there, there's a whole part to the edge of San Francisco that's all cemeteries. And a lot of San Francisco and they moved a lot of the bodies and stuff they had to a town called Colma, called Daly City.
Yeah.
And between those two cities, there's, the Jewish cemeteries, the Chinese, the Armenian, Iranian, any nationality you could think of. So it's really rich as far as that's concerned, because, the Bay Area's got so many different people, especially in San Francisco. Yeah. So you have those mixtures of cemeteries. As far as the hauntings, I have like a lot of friends from the inner city ghetto that like maybe, met an early transition, and they get stuck at some, like, wherever you can afford, like you might get better rent at the, Chinese cemetery if they let you in. So you're going up there, and it's like a brother from the hood that's like there. We're like, got this little box, got his name. It's like, but no, I can't really say that they feel supernatural. Like for me, I mean, I've gotten like EVPs, and me and Paul were in Oakland, as he said. But even that is just another level. So for me, it's just a lot of diversity. But the cemeteries here, I mean, to this date, I haven't felt anything, super keen. So,
okay.
Christian, and Zandine might relate to this, but when I was living in San Bruno, a bunch of us high school kids used to go to the Daly City Chinese Cemetery.
Yeah.
And some of my friends, not me, but some of my friends, and I'll say one name, Willie Reed, because he's deceased now. Willie Reed had a little neighborhood gang, and they would go to the Daly City Chinese Cemetery and grave rob. The Chinese were known to throw jewelry and money into the graves of the deceased. So they would actually go over there. And one night they took me over there, and I didn't have no clue that they were going to do some grave robbing. And they brought out shovels and everything else to start digging, pulling out jewelry, diamonds, and everything. It was.
Man, you're supposed to tell me you're gonna do shit like that, man. When you got me.
And then over at the Daly City Chinese Cemetery, it had urban legends. One of the urban legends is right at the gate. They said that this couple was coming out of the cemetery, and some Bigfoot creature was on top of the gate and jumped on top of their car. That was That was one urban
Yeah.
legend, which I don't believe. But
Yeah.
anyway, one urban legend. The other urban legend was a couple went over into a secluded area. They were making out. They saw a strange blue light that was pulsating, and come to find out it was a UFO. And the boyfriend came out of the car to investigate some more and vanished and disappeared. The woman, the car, and zoomed out of there. So that was
Which one
two.
was that at, Paul? Which one
That
was that?
was at the Daly City Chinese
Okay.
Cemetery.
You know,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. You know, I remember I sent you pictures of how extensive it is. One thing I will say, I haven't hung out enough because, you know, you kind of take it for granted. But, you know, I have gone to like, say, other cities, you know, where it seems like more creepy because I'm not from there. Say, like, I'm at Angels Camp, you know, at their cemetery, and like it's a small one, like at 3:30 in the morning. But that's not the allure. The lure is like, you know, a brother is out here at the cemetery at 3:30. I'm more worried about the police, you know, than I am about the dead people. So that was kind of funny. But Christian, I want to turn it over to Phil, but I want to just say one thing, brother. Every time we interview you or I hear you talk on another show or on your YouTube channel, I'm impressed about the history that you know about the soldiers that a lot of people, I mean, they need to be refreshed. I didn't even know, but you know, some people don't know the Confederacy. They don't know about the Democrats' early history. A lot of people think the Democrats are what they are now. But like the way you mentioned this soldier, what side he was on, some of the sympathies he had. You know, as a person on the side of the Union, you know, I can appreciate that, man. You know, so once again, I want to thank you for bringing to light some of that good history that you always do about the cemetery in that light.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. I think it's important to try to be as accurate as possible. And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to play politics or anything like that. I just want people to know where things are at, what things
Right.
were in the past. And I think if people like really took the time to like research history, their perspective of today might be slightly different. Today it's easy for people on the left to target people on the right and say they're racist and this and that, but it's like, do you even know what happened in the past? I mean, and people are just ignorant. They don't even care. They're just like, no, I don't care what you have to say and this and that. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Like, so when I do these videos and I talk about stuff like that, I don't do it from a perspective of politics. I do it from a perspective of trying to tell people about history and let people form their own opinions about it.
Man, that's spot on. What you think, Phil?
I think it was a Democratic president in 1968 that signed the Civil Rights Bill. So, and I think the Democratic Party of the 1960s and present day is a vastly different party than it was in the 1860s. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
As far as cemeteries, I've been to Boot Hill, Arizona. I've been to Arlington. I've been to the graveyard where the Jersey Devil is supposedly buried in Smithsville, Leeds Point, New Jersey.
Nice.
That was a favorite haunt of mine as a kid. My mother's family arrived in New Jersey in 1673. Wow. So there are some very old graveyards in my hometown, and we used to run through all of them around midnight on Halloween every year as part of just scare the shit out of each other type thing.
Phil, when you say you went to Boot Hill in Arizona, are you talking about Tombstone?
No, what do you call it? Old Tucson.
Oh, I've been to Old Tucson and Tombstone. And
yeah,
Tombstone has a Boot Hill too.
Yeah, well, they have one. They have one at Old Tucson too. I'm sure you've been there, where they have the giant boot and all that. Yeah, in the old jail that looks like a rock and all that stuff. That's touristy stuff. I don't know how historically accurate that one is, but
at Old Tucson, they had the High Chaparral over there too.
Yeah, I haven't been there since I was a kid, but it was a lot of fun, and I've always been a Western fan. So I mean, I remember having a good time there that day. As far as every other cemetery, whenever I go to towns, I mean, you have to admit they're designed architecturally to be beautiful. and to be peaceful, serene places.
Yeah.
So if you have an eye for that type of thing, you're going to be drawn to it. As far as seeing anything in there, I mean, as a kid running through there at night at midnight, we've heard things, we've seen things, we were all scared, and so yeah, I had a lot of fun, and heard things, saw things, was scared out of my wits, and I have some great memories as a result of that type of thing. I remember one Halloween while I was in the Marine Corps, being invited out to a party in Virginia, where on this old plantation where there were family plots that had been not maintained and were actually exposed, and you could see the skeletons in them. And these fools were playing around inside the graves on Halloween night. So yeah, and I guess what I'm also interested in is like the whole Poltergeist movie and the whole idea of graveyards that have been forgotten. And there's quite a few in Sacramento. I'm sure you're aware, Christian. There's a school in downtown Sacramento across from Sutter's Fort, where there used to be a graveyard. They built a kids' school right over top of it. And in the outside of New York, right at the foot of the bridge, they found tombstones because when they cleared out the old cemeteries, they just threw the tombstones away and they put them on the shore to stop shore erosion. And graveyards are not permanent, and the ones that remain permanent, I think, only do so because either important people are buried there, or wealthy. They're historically significant, they're architecturally beautiful. There has to be a reason why they stick around. I don't think, as far as the business of death goes, I don't think cemeteries are taxed. I think that's part of the reason why some of them do stick around. They don't get taxed like a homestead does, like a house does, or like a business does. I think that's the only reason why they're able to stick around with such huge pieces of land with nothing in there, nothing growing there. It's not productive land use. So you have to think about how do you set aside 30 acres for dead bodies? It's absolutely absurd. The business of death is fascinating. Do you know like 5 pounds of arsenic goes to every body that they embalm? It goes into the ground, and then when the body rots, the casket rots, and it goes into the ground, it goes into the well water, and the drinking water of this entire country is polluted because of dead bodies. I mean, you could really go deep down the rabbit hole as far as this thing goes. I mean, there was an involved person in Elliot's funeral home in Augusta, Georgia, that was kept on display in the front room for over 100 years.
Well,
as people walked in and said, "Here's our handiwork. This guy has been embalmed and hasn't rotted and looks great for over 100 years by the Elliot's funeral home in Augusta, Georgia." So they finally, in the 1970s, because he happened to have been an African American person, they finally buried the man because of the whole racial thing that was going on with all that. And they realized, hey, it's horrible to keep a human being, and on top of that, it looked really bad that this happened to be an African American human being, and you're in the heart of the South. So, but it's not the only place it happened. There's also a mummy in Jamaica, a poor woman who died on an airplane on the way over there. Somebody embalmed her. They couldn't pay to have her transported back to the United States, and she's still there on display as part of the handiwork of that funeral home. So this still happens. There are crazy stories that go on with the business of death. There are podcasters out there that do this for a living and focus on the subject of death. I think, and there are documentaries on it too. There have been funeral homes out there that got busted for not doing their job and letting bodies pile up instead of burying them or cremating them. Crematoriums are notorious for this type of thing. So you could really, you could make plenty of movies on this type of thing. I think the disappearance of graveyards is particularly fascinating to me, though, because you never know where you're walking. And one of the things I found out when I did my documentary, the first one, was that the roads, especially the roads out west, every road you walk down has bodies buried underneath it. And that's because the safest place to bury a body when everybody was coming west was in the road, because as the wagons would come and pack the dirt down, it would keep the bodies safe and keep animals from digging those bodies up. Nice. So as you're driving down Del Paso Boulevard or down the highways, you're driving over bodies.
Bill, We got 20 seconds left. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. Christian, we're going to send you another link. And
Okay.
we'll finish up this interview. And
Sweet.
Phil can finish the story.
Awesome.
Nice.
I'm going to tell you about the profiters of how a man became a figure.
And check this back off.
All right. I'm gonna
The,
mute my loud mouth.
I was just thinking about not to plug it, but I wrote a book a couple of years back, and Karen Greenlee was one of the characters, or one of the crazy characters of Sacramento history. You ever hear of her, Christian?
Oh, what was her name again?
Karen Greenlee.
It doesn't ring a bell at the moment.
So, do you know? Are you familiar with the Sacramento Memorial Lawn Mortuary Cemetery?
Probably have. I don't know if I do. I don't know it by that name. Is that the Masonic Cemetery?
It is. I just looked this up because it's been a while since I've been in Sacramento, but it's Sacramento Memorial Lawn. It is on 6100 Stockton Boulevard, Sacramento, California.
I mean, I've driven past that one, but I haven't been in there yet.
Okay. Well, this woman was busted in 1979 for having sex with the bodies she was embalming.
Wow.
Yeah, she in 1979 she actually drove off in the middle of a funeral procession with the body in the back of the hearse and disappeared, and they found her 2 counties over in another cemetery, naked and drunk with the dead body. And,
I mean, is it getting it up? Is this? I mean, what was she? Is it embalmed? I mean,
she was having sex with the dead. She was only turned on by dead young men. Yeah, so she was an apprentice embalmer at the Sacramento Memorial Lawn Mortuary, and during the funeral of a young man in 1979, she drove off with his body and was found 2 days later with both the hearse and the body near Allegheny, Sierra County. Greenlee was charged with illegally driving a hearse and interfering with a burial. In Sacramento Superior Court, Greenlee admitted she had had sex with 20 to 40 male corpses during her time at the mortuary. Unfortunately, California had no statute at this time regarding sex with the dead. She served 11 days in jail and was fined $255. In an interview, Greenlee was surprisingly open about her attraction to the dead, indicating she was only attracted to fresh young male corpses and that the smell of death aroused her. She also described her attraction to blood and how a body tends to purge blood from its mouth when lying on top of it.
So she's a necrophiliac.
Yeah,
necrophiliac. So,
Necrophilia.
but I'm just wondering, how does that work? I mean, it's no Viagra, it's no nothing. I mean, I don't understand what's going on with this thing, but
well, they call them sticks for a reason.
Rigor mortis.
no, I know. That's just what we needed. That's cool.
It makes you want to be cremated, huh? Or maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe I think we'll keep it rigor mortis. Rigor mortized. I want to say, Phil, right before we got, I want to come back to the subject. Right before we got off, there was a guy in Egypt, Rakian. Well, he's actually in Africa. And he was in Africa poor, but he was everywhere, all his villagers and people agreed he was a smart man, very clever. And he just felt he was too big for Africa, this part he was in. He wanted to get to, Kemet, Egyptus. He wanted to get to that area in Africa. And he thought, hey, you know what? I got to do something. So he started trying to do odd jobs, sell different things. And it wasn't working out. He would always get robbed or something would happen, where he just felt like, wow, nothing's working out. So he traveled a little bit further, traveled further towards Egypt. And what happened was he arrived at a small town where he got this one hustle that was just knocked everybody out. He got this hustle where he got a plot of grave plot of land in front of, I guess would be like City Hall, or like one of the most important buildings. And he said, hey, if you're a warrior or a champion, you can be buried here, but for a fee, gold or silver, depending on where your plot was. But just being buried in this, he made it prestigious to where if you were buried there, you were some kind of, important person. So he made quite a bit of money on this, and people said, "Hey, what's this guy doing?" So they started telling public officials and trying to complain on him, but nobody could do anything before he made enough money to buy people off. And he started buying real soldiers with real uniforms, guarding the cemetery, making it look more official. And so his money caught up to him. The hustle caught up to a point where he started telling people, "Hey, I want to, one day I want to talk to the pharaoh. I actually want to, I want to go to, I want to try to be a dignitary." And he says, "Oh man, you won't be able to talk to the pharaoh." And he only comes out once a year. And when he does, he surveys certain towns. We don't know his route, but that would be the only time. And you probably wouldn't get to do it. It'd just be like the longest shot from Hill. So he kept doing his graveyard hustle, buying different things for the town and becoming basically like a dignitary. So when the Pharaoh did come out, he had heard about this town and a little bit about this person. So when he toured there, Rakian, before he got there, Rakian brought a bunch of horses, beautiful horses, because he heard that the Pharaoh liked these beautiful horses, and he bought a bunch of men and women, beautiful slaves. So as Pharaoh was coming through, they said, "Hey, he wishes to speak with you." And so they thought, "Hey, Rakian's, he's in deep shit right now. He's in deep doodle, excuse me." And so when he came, he presented the slaves and the horses to Rakian presented them to the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh did like them. As the story goes, he did like them and thought that was a very nice touch. And so he would summon them to have them talk. And they were like, "Are you sure?" It's like, no, it's okay. Let him come talk to me. And so when he talked to him, he says, "Hey, so what are you doing here? You got a illegal graveyard. You're in the name of, imperial. You're actually charging your own fees." And he knew about the whole setup. He knew about the whole scandal. And he said, "You know what? I've been looking for a guy that is as clever as you. I've been needing somebody that's this clever. You know what?" And they couldn't believe it. Rakian ended up being friends with the Pharaoh. And so as time passed on, he ended up taking his place. So this guy started from a graveyard hustle to end up becoming Pharaoh Rakian. Look him up.
I will. That's an awesome story.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, Phil, you live in Florida right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Flagler Beach, Florida.
Okay. Have you been to any cemeteries out there and explored any, or?
I've been to a few in St. Augustine. St. Augustine has some really old ones. St. Augustine is the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in North America. The Spanish hit there in early 1500s, like 1513, something like that. I mean, historically speaking, this is where the Ponce de Leon supposedly found the Fountain of Youth.
Okay.
So there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and there's some really, really old graveyards in St. Augustine. And there are actually night cemetery tours you can take there where someone will take you, they're all dressed up in the old garb, and take you through the graveyards and tell you all the ghost stories. And I highly recommend it for anybody who ends up in St. Augustine. It's a fun night. Really, really cool stuff. It's also, there's a lot of history in St. Augustine. Martin Luther King, Jr. walked through there and had a historic sit-in at one of the diners there. They have a commemoration there. One of the largest slaughters happened on the river, the intercoastal waterway there. St. Augustine is on the mainland side, but the Bridge of Lions crosses over to the Barrier Island side, which is actually where I live, and that river, that stretch of the intercoastal is called the Matanzas River. Matanzas is Spanish for slaughter, and the reason is that back in the day, the French and the Spanish hated each other and were fighting, and that's because everybody was trying to settle the New World, and the French and the Spanish were both competing for the territory. Yeah, Florida is interesting because if you ever look at like the history of who settled Florida and who had a flag over at any given time, the Spanish had it, the French had it, the English had it. There were many flags over Florida at any given time. And anyways, the French kind of like pooped out couldn't handle the heat and the mosquitoes and everything else, and they actually surrendered to the Spanish, which was a huge mistake because the Spanish took no prisoners, especially not French prisoners, and they slaughtered 300 people right there on the Matanzas River and just turned the river red with blood. And ever since then, the river's been called Matanzas, which means slaughter in Spanish. So, yeah, there's a real bloody history. There's all, they call it the Pirate Coast too. You know, there's a whole history of pirates up here. It's really fascinating and interesting. A lot of history here. You know, this stretch from St. Augustine all the way down to Daytona and all the way down to Cocoa Beach, which is where the astronauts, you know, took off and everything else. You can have quite a good time, you know, just exploring the history of the United States up and down this coast. It's a lot of fun. You know, but as far as burying things in here, the bodies don't last long because the water table is high and it just eats away everything. So you're not going to find it. It's not like the West where everything gets naturally mummified and there's actually going to be something left. If you actually tried to dig anything up around here, there's not going to be anything left. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my sister used to live at Port Orange, Florida. And she says she had all kinds of little stories about that place. But I was going to ask everybody, have you guys been to Kentucky?
No.
No? Christian, you'd really like that place because people are buried all over the place. I was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and all these different homes, they're like little farms, and they have these family plots right there in their property. And there's just everywhere you go, you see these little tombstones all over the place.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I've been to an underwater cemetery, and that's the USS Arizona.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
At Hawaii.
What's that like? What's that like?
Well, it's when that ship went down.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. When it went down, they left the bodies with the ship. Yeah, so when you go to the memorial, and they said that place is very, very haunted. That memorial, there's all those dead people down there.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul, you remember when we went to Mare Island, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now when we went to Mare Island, that had some like really good history, but
Vallejo.
I meant to tell you that night. Huh?
Oh, I think Stacy was asking where Mare Island was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. My microphone. It's in Vallejo, and I guess kind of like roundabouts, pretty much close to Vallejo. They had a big. They had a big. I mean, it was like a lot of stuff on the witches, on the spells, graveyards. They had this one thing when me and Paul had me go there one time for investigation, but when we left, I got a lot of history, but as we were leaving, it started getting really dark, and you had to hurry up and get back to your car before you couldn't see anything, like even in front of you. It was that dark there. And I got caught. I was trying to like get, pictures, get some EVPs, and got overzealous, and it got dark on me, right? And what was weird is I was walking, and you could only see like really kind of right here, if you turned in your flashlight, you could see, but somebody had passed like this close to me when I was going back to the car, and it freaked me. I mean, it was a real person. I mean, I believe it was a real person, because as when they passed, I didn't want to turn the light on real quick, but then when I did, it's just like I saw him walking towards the parking lot area, just like me, as much as I could see, but it was freak. It was like the freakiest thing that happened to me at a cemetery, because I don't think it was a spirit thing. It really was like a real person, but I don't know how they got that close to me just from right when it got dark, and I'm walking off the cemetery lawn where they were giving us like a lecture, because I was hanging around the tombstones, and then you come down off the lawn to a road that you're walking down. So when I came down, I was in that road. I was like turning around, like trying to get my bearings, like, oh, go down this way, and so that was weird. Anyway, that's my graveyard story.
Hey, have you guys seen any of the pictures of Mount Everest? That is a cemetery. People, those climbers,
right.
Yeah, and the people that hike up there, they die.
Yeah.
And their bodies are left right there at Mount Everest. And when the hikers go up there, they said, "You'll see red shoes. Make a right." Oh, okay. So you see this dead body with red shoes. You make a right, and then you'll see a helmet face. Oh, there's a guy with a helmet. Make a left. Yeah, the dead bodies are right there. They have one dead body they call Pretty Girl, and she looks like she's still alive. You get up close, and her skin's all frostbitten and wrinkly. So that's that would be a place, Christian, for you to check out.
Yeah,
There's a
make sure you get as close to the top of Mount Everest as you can, Christian.
Right, Stacy? Right?
well,
So what about this rigor mortis stuff? This rigor mortis grave necrophiliac? No, I'm just kidding. Let's do it.
Well, my question for Christian is, so out of all the places that you have visited, what is one or two of your favorites?
oh boy. Well, I do love the Sacramento City Cemetery. That's probably always my go-to, and
Yeah.
it
Okay.
doesn't matter like what time of the day it is, doesn't matter what season it is. I always come across something new that I've never seen before, which is strange because I've been going to that cemetery since probably 2002 and exploring it. And every time I go there, I swear I find something new that I never saw before. And yet I'm like, I've been to this spot before. How did I not see this grave? How did I not see it for whatever reason? I don't know if it was, where the sun might have been shining or it was the different seasons. It just didn't stand out to me before. It's just, so yeah, that's my number one. And then my number two would be the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles. I mean, there's actors that I love to go visit. I always love to go see Peter Lorre and Dee Dee Ramone from the Ramones and other people that are buried there. Just there's celebrities, but there's also a lot of just everyday people like you and I who have interesting graves that I like to check out and explore.
Okay, so, oh, sorry. Hold on. One more question.
Okay.
What's your origin story? Like, how do you feel like you got into doing all of this? And just wanting to be able to give everybody the history of stuff. What was kind of first some of the stuff that started this for you?
Well, my grandpa passed away before I turned 1 year old, and so growing up, we would always go to the cemetery and visit his grave. That's at Camellia Lawn off of the Jackson Highway there in Sacramento County. And I remember one time I asked, I don't know, it was either my aunt or grandma, and I just said, like, where's my grandpa? And she said, he's in heaven. So, here I am walking around. I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of like graves here. There's a lot of dead people. I don't know, just the curiosity of it. It just, at an early age, kind of death became like normalized for me. So once I got my driver's license after I graduated high school when I was 18, I started driving to that cemetery. And then a couple of years later, I got a video camera. I started walking around filming the cemetery. And I did capture something really creepy on camera, which I'm pissed that that footage got erased. But little by little, exploring cemeteries, and through doing that, I kind of saw that, that Hollywood basically kind of makes it out that they're all spooky and scary, and there's ghosts and ghouls and stuff like that. But I don't think all of them are, and I think it's a rarity to maybe come across that type of stuff. It's my opportunity. I don't know how to say this. When I go to a cemetery, it's like it's my place to get away. And number one, you're around nature. You see really cool artwork on people's, graves, their tombstones. You see scriptures. It's like that moment of time where you're like one with God. Sometimes it's uplifting, depending on where you're at in your life. A lot of times, I'm a person that deals with anxiety and on again, off again depression. So when I come across something like that that's uplifting, it kind of takes me out of my zone, out of that place, that season of my life, basically. I love visiting historical graves, famous graves, and then people like you and I, and the bigger thing is, I go to a cemetery, I take pictures of their grave, or I film it. I go home, I check out Find a Grave, see what I can find. If not, I have an account through newspapers.com, and then I do as much research I can on people. And but it's just a place to kind of get away. It's like an outdoor free like museum. I kind of dissociate death with cemeteries. However, when I go to visit, you know, a loved one, there is that part where now I'm not, it's dissociating with, you know, death. It's now a time of like mourning. But once that is done and over with, now I can go and explore and enjoy it for what it really is to me, like just a place to explore and go on an adventure.
Yeah.
Hey, Christian, would you ever take a job as a grave digger?
I'd probably be super tired just digging one grave. I no, I mean, man, no, I mean there was a time I thought about becoming a mortician, but I don't think I could do makeup or anything like that on someone.
Christian, my dad, when he was in high school, was a grave digger.
Wow.
And he said that when you die, your fingernails grow long, and your hair starts growing long and stuff like that. So he saw some creepy things digging those graves.
I bet.
Yeah. And
I always wanted to be a groundskeeper because I thought that would be the best job ever. They gave you a house and everything else. So, and you just live at the graveyard. I was like, oh, I'd love that. That would be
That might be
my
kind of
dream
cool.
job.
yeah. Yeah, that was Lehigh, Oklahoma, where my dad was digging graves. The USS Arizona, I forgot to mention, a lot of people, tourists, say that in the water, the oil still leaks from the USS Arizona. Now, the oil mixes with water and makes all kinds of little designs, but they say that they see the faces of the sailors that died at Pearl Harbor. And also, too, one tourist actually claims that she saw a sailor uh, standing at the memorial, and she went over and talked to him and said, "Thank you for your service." And he looked at her and he says, "I died here." And then he vanished. So
Wow.
that
Wow.
place is, oh my God. And when I visited the USS Arizona, I didn't know it had all these paranormal stories. So I would love to go back and just see what I can find. But
See the news stories, huh? Hey,
yeah,
Christian,
yeah.
Christian.
Yeah.
Christian, I wanted to ask you something. When you go to the graveyards, do you like chip on the people's zodiac sign or how long they live when you look at the stones and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm always amazed at how long someone lived for. I there was a time, I'm trying to remember when it was, probably around 2003, 2004. I was going through this period of just really deep, dark depression, just didn't want to live, just kind of just in a crappy place. And I was exploring the Sacramento City Cemetery, and I came across this grave of a child that got to live for a day. And you wouldn't believe that was just the biggest rude awakening to me. Just snapped me out of my depression, and just made me realize that how lucky and blessed I am to be alive at that time in my life. And I've tried to go back to find that tombstone, and I cannot find it. It's almost like it didn't even exist, but existed in that period of time to wake me out of my slumber.
Yeah, that's powerful. Man. Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, somebody was trying to tell you something, huh?
Definitely. I wanted to mention that when I go to cemeteries, I don't go to cemeteries for paranormal stuff, but I kind of always see it as if something does happen, it's an added bonus.
Okay.
But I will say there is a cemetery that I'm really curious to explore based off of some paranormal activity that I've heard of. And I know, Paul, I know you sent me a link because I had asked you about it, but the Sonoma Cemetery there in Sonoma County, was speaking to one of the guys in the fraternal organization I belong to, which is the Native Sons of the Golden West. And he had told me that he had been to this cemetery at night. And he said that him and a couple other people actually witnessed a portal open up in this cemetery and I actually saw like the ghost or apparitions of people walking out of this like hole basically in the sky. I don't know how to explain it. He was trying his best to explain it, and he said he's been there several times and has witnessed this thing. So I really want to go to the cemetery and see this. I mean, I'm open to the possibility that I might pee or poop myself, but I kind of want to see something like that.
Do you get scared easy?
I mean, by crazy people, yes, but paranormal stuff, no.
No. Yeah.
What cemetery did we go to?
That's the Hicksville Cemetery in Galt on Arnold Road. Yeah, I was just at that one last week.
And we captured an EVP of a woman. Yeah,
so we went. I met the woman's mother. She was there attending the graves, which were that of her family members, as well as her family is Miwok Indian, and had told me that her daughter had passed away young, and that her friends would go party at her grave and take pictures, and her apparition would show up in the pictures. And so we went over to her grave, and we, Paul had the tape recorder, and we asked, can you say something, this and that, and then finally Paul's like, okay, this is it. This is your last chance. And then he captured a little girl's voice say hello. And it was just the creepiest thing, because there was another gal in the cemetery with us exploring, but she was all the way on the other side of the cemetery. And I've never encountered an EVP. I mean, I don't do EVP, so.
Paul's the EVP magnet.
Yes, he definitely is. And I was shocked. Also, that same time, we also went to the way in the back. If you remember, there was that one grave. I said I wanted to check out this one because looked like it was freshly dug. It had dead birds on the grave, which was not. That looks very ritualistic. With some cigarettes on the grave, and I said, let's do an EVP here. And we did several, and then I think it was the last one, and the recording sounds like a man yelling down a hallway. It has like an echo effect to it. And that you can find that video on my YouTube channel. It's called Haunted Hicksville Cemetery. And it's creepy. I mean, creepy. I keep it up, but I can't watch the video. Just those two EVPs are just, especially the little girl's voice. Hello. No, thank you.
Paul's did an echo like that in what's that park that we went to where the wagon trains used to live, and then they got all this disease and stuff. The place we went to, Paul's right. It's an historical part of Sacramento. Phil, I'm sure Phil knows this spot. But you got an EVP there where they sounded like Christian said, like somebody talking down a tunnel, but like the area we were in, it was all weeds, no residents, nothing. And it's just like where does this type of sound is generated like that? But Paul's good for that.
Okay. Yeah, he definitely is.
It wasn't East Lawn, was it?
I think it was, because it's the wagon trail or whatever, the dragon train people. You knew the history where they were all parked there for a while, and people started getting sick and everything, but it was fighting and some blood, and people, I guess, killed each other at that site. And across is a historical place. It was when we went to that place, there was a bridge, and it was supposed to be haunted too in the park. They're all kind of connected. I don't even know that. It's definitely Sacramento, but I don't know.
Was that where you guys had that tried to do the live podcast from that night?
Yeah, that area. Yep, right there.
Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah.
So what cemetery is that?
Where was that, Paul?
Oh God, I can't remember.
You were in a neighborhood, dude. Didn't you start off in a neighborhood?
Yeah, it was in a neighborhood. Yeah.
But then you walked somewhere, and
the homeless people told us the stories about seeing the ball and the spirits by the bridge. You know that place, Paul.
Yeah, and I just can't think of it either. But Phil, he was so impressed of my video recording of that area because we did it live.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. It was a lot of fun, that episode.
Phil, why are you laughing?
Because I think you were rocking the flip phone still back then. Paul was rocking the jitterbug.
We were having a lot of fun at his expense that night.
But hey, if it got you the information you need, if you were able to, I mean, that's the interesting thing about technology is almost any and all technology can be used in some sort of way to communicate. That's the fascinating thing, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Christian, I just got a really fast question. Have you been to the East Lawn Memorial Park at 9189 East Stockton in Elk Grove?
Yes, I have. Yeah, many times.
What's going on over there? That's where my mother and my father are in the mausoleum over there.
Okay.
I remember going there one time, and believe it or not, they used to have an ostrich on the grounds. Yeah, this
Interesting.
ostrich would
Dangerous, sounds dangerous.
yeah, would actually watch you, and would actually circle around the property.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
They
cheaper
don't
than a
have
dog.
those.
I don't know. Yeah, I there's a restaurant in Elk Grove that I go to quite a bit, Mike's Diner, and just after I go to the diner, I take a drive through the cemetery, and I have friends that are buried there. There's a couple professional baseball players I like to stop and visit, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's haunted or not. I don't know anything negative about it.
You
But
said there were some professional baseball players buried there.
yeah, Nippy Jones, he's best known for the shoe polish incident during the 1956 or 57 World Series.
Oh,
Basically they weren't the Atlanta Braves. They were called they were the Braves, but I remember where they were located at that time. And so that's his notoriety. And then another guy by the name of Richie Myers, he was from Elk Grove. He was a
Wow.
he was probably one of the best ball players to come out of Elk Grove High School, and he played for the Sacramento Solons, and he tried his hand at the pros, but they never really gave him a shot, and he played for the Cincinnati Cardinals during the mid to late 50s, like 4 games, and they kicked him back to the minors, unfortunately. But yeah, we got a couple pro baseball players out here in Elk Grove amongst the Donner Party family member and Willard, which was with the Lewis and Clark expedition.
Hey, Christian, back to Lewis and Clark, because you know a bit about them. I want to ask you, did you ever come across any of like how they had the research as far as when them finding the giants and different things before they actually died, some of the stuff, because it was pretty interesting if I remember. Do you know much about those two gentlemen, other than, before they were buried?
I really don't know too much. I mean, I've been to Fort Clatsop out in Washington.
Okay, that's where, okay.
There's a Lewis and Clark museum there. They actually had a picture of Mr. Willard there, which is quite interesting, a picture of him and his wife. I'm like, oh, that's our Elk Grove connection there.
Wow.
And
that's incredible, man. You've been to all these different graveyards, I mean, around, the country, and like, you still like the Sacramento one. And I was going to say to Stacy and Phil, although they got a lot of diverse cemeteries out here, it's a small area though, but you guys are like where it's so historic. Like, I would think it's all kind of like crazy energy that we don't even have out here in Florida and in Missouri, because of, all the serious war. What do you guys feel like it's more intense than the Bay Area of that,
well, frankly, California, where the Lewis and Clark guy is buried at, is very, very haunted. Kelvin Colt, who was a gunslinger, his apparition has been seen in the middle of the street by people. And that's where we had a psychic named Brittany Lance, and she channeled a ghost in this ballroom. And we actually have pictures of the light hitting her. And then she says, I'm hugging the ghost. And there's a light right in between her. We got so much activity at Franklin, California. And that cemetery, super haunted.
Well, what's interesting is that school, sorry to interrupt, everyone else had something to say. I just quickly want to say that the school that's next door that now they're basically tearing apart and it doesn't exist anymore. My brother was a janitor there, I think in 2004 or five, and he had a poltergeist encounter in one of the classrooms at night when he was a janitor.
wow.
He was vacuuming, and all of a sudden, like he had no doors open, no windows open. There were a bunch of papers on the teacher's desk, and they just shot up in the air all over the place. And my brother like was warned that like the school was haunted. Um, and so like my brother just like freaked out, said, "Look, I'm sorry, I didn't do anything to you. Please leave me alone." He like darted out, went to his car and hung out there. He like called his friend who gave him the job and was like, "Dude, I just had a paranormal encounter. I'm not going back in there. Can you come over here and help me finish the job?" I mean, it's scared my brother, like basically, I mean, he didn't piss himself, but it was like he was literally scared. I mean, my brother hasn't had paranormal encounters like I have, so he's not like immune to it, but it doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Well, and Christian, I forgot to tell you about one of the ones that I told Paul about too. Going back to the graveyards. You know, you guys are talking about how depending on where people were buried and tombstones moved and schools being haunted and everybody worrying about, you know, why is this place haunted? And I could see, you know, that your brother probably got into one of those buildings that was a school on top of a graveyard, which is horrible. But I'm sorry. Anyway, I went off on a tangent. George Washington Carver. I don't know if any of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
George Washington
Sandy
Carver.
knows. Oh yeah. So we're right by where he used to live, and where are you? What? Who are you?
Because
living in?
we're down to less than a minute. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well, really quick, anyways, there was a small graveyard that we found that we got a lot of EVPs and a lot of spirit talk from everything. All of them pretty much